Patanaiva, Patanaiva.
James Ramos.
Yeah.
First the beautiful song, and now we have chirping birds.
That's right.
And a beautiful environment here on your San Manuel tribal lands. Talk to me about your early childhood. From what little I know, it was what we might call today poverty. You lived in poverty, were raised in poverty. How many members in your family?
So in my family, my sister Elena, my brother Ken Ramirez, and my younger brother Tommy Ramos, and then my mom and my dad.
I read that when you lived on the reservation before it became what it is today, you actually had 3 trailers to live in as opposed to just 1 trailer.
There was 3 trailers. Our family had 1. There was another family that had the other trailer and then the other one. So it wasn't that all 3 trailers were ours. It was one mobile home, 1 trailer that we lived in.
5 people?
5 people in there.
1 trailer.
In 1 trailer.
Did your mom and dad work off the reservation to support you all?
My mom was a beautician in Highland, and my dad worked for the San Bernardino City School District.
You know, people don't understand, unless they study it, how our Native Americans were treated with their lands taken from them. And now what tribes like yours, particularly yours, have managed to do when you came from so little. And somewhere along the line, someone instilled in you the desire and the need for education. You went through kindergarten, through high school, where?
So in kindergarten, I started off at Cole Elementary School, and then at Belvedere. I did my kindergarten, and then elementary school there at Belvedere School here in San Bernardino, right here by the reservation. And then to Serrano Middle School, and then to Pacific High School, and then they closed Pacific, and I ended up at San Gregorio High School.
Were you one of the only Native American youngsters in the school district?
There was a group of us that grew up, were all about the same age. So we would happen to grow up in the mobile homes, and we would all walk together to Belvedere. Then we would have to cross the wash to get to Belvedere. So we'd have to climb down and step on the rocks so we didn't get dirty. Sometimes some of us would slip and fall, and we still would have to go to school. And we'd get there, and we had a little mud on our pants, and some people would start to say different things. But there was a group of us that stayed together, went through elementary and junior high together. But it was pretty trying times back then.
What made the difference?
I think the difference is always believing in yourself that there was something better than what it was that we were living in those conditions that were there. Culture and spirit was always something that was very much pushed on us.
Who was the biggest influence on your belief in education when you were growing up?
So belief in education is always my mom and my dad pushing education for us as a way to create a better way of life. However, during those times, you know, we're young and we didn't want to, you know, we knew our own ways in life, but later on it all made sense, and re-engaged in education.
How old were you when you started working outside? I noticed that you worked in Jack in the Box and Long John Silver's.
But prior to that, here on the reservation, we went through different economic developments. One, behind the trailer that we lived in, there was horse stables that were rented out to, or leased out to, Ann and Jerry Buckles from Del Rosa area that brought their horses up and were able to half-hour rides, hour rides here on the reservation. And so my grandmother, we built a snack shack behind our trailer and started to sell 5 bread and soda pop. And so I seen how you would buy a soda pop for 50 cents and charge 75 cents for it, make a little of a profit on it. That was the first introduction into business.
How old were you?
I was probably maybe 12, 13 years old.
That was the beginning.
Yeah. And
there must have been something pretty special about your parents that were able to raise you, did your siblings follow in the educational footsteps?
So currently, I'm the only one in my family with my siblings that has a master's in business administration. My brother followed and got a fire certificate, fire degree. He was with that for a little while.
So education, Jack in the Box, Long John Silver's. I
Yeah.
also understand that in the 1980s, when your tribe started selling tax-free cigarettes,
That's
which
right.
was basically it was the first business that your tribe really got into, like the ones in Cabazon and in the East Valley of Coachella. You unloaded a truck
That's right.
for $20.
$20.
A truckload.
A truckload of cartons of cigarettes, and we unloaded it and put it into the trailer. And then my older cousin, Jeffrey Jimenez, was the one that was actually at the window selling the cigarettes, making a little bit more money than we did, I guess, unloading the trucks.
So all of this between selling fry bread and a little soda water, and then coming up and just unloading the cigarette trucks, you just got it. Somehow or another, you got it.
Yeah.
God, I'm really growing up with the kind of hard start that Native Americans have had in this country from the beginning, and then being able to do what you've done is remarkable. 1985, your tribe started bingo. And what did you do during the time that you graduated from high school and then you started your formal education in higher education?
So prior to that, when the tribe did engage in the bingo hall and finally got that moving, we worked as the night crew there, putting the tile for the floors down, sweeping up after the different bingo games would happen. So we became the night crew. Originally, it's provided jobs for everybody here on the reservation.
How old were you then?
I was probably 17 at the time.
So you just kept working from the fry bread out of the back of a little shack on the trailer park.
And kept working, kept doing different things. At the bingo hall, we created all the things that were there as far as seeing it from the ground level up, cement floors, to laying the floors, and then ultimately later on with the maintenance crew stripping and waxing that floor for the bingo hall games.
So you guys did labor.
We did.
You were laborers. You're working hard.
Me and my cousins and older ones too, yeah.
So between the beginning of the bingo and cleaning floors, you're a late teenager. What happened between then and 1994 when you began, when you achieved your associate's degree?
Yeah.
So what were you doing in between the age of 17 in 1985 and 1994? What did you do to graduate up to a higher education? What were you doing then?
So I was working, stripping, waxing floors, doing those things, and an earthquake happened where, I cleaned the floors and the aftershock came and dirtied it all up again. I figured, we got to go back to school. Something's got to be better than this. So that's when I re-engaged in education at the community college and attained my associate's degree.
That was in 1994.
It was from the Victor Valley Community College.
How, were you married at the time?
I was married. I got married in 1989.
So, okay, you're cleaning floors, you're working the bingo, you're cleaning up after everything, and in the meantime you get married. I believe your wife's name is Terry.
Terry.
And you have 4 children right away?
4 children, not all at once. They have to come a little. You have to space them out. Yeah,
but
we haven't figured out how to just get them all out
at one time. So that was between 85 and 94 that you had your children.
Yes. So I believe so. My first daughter, I believe, because I don't the dates, right? The years. My first daughter, Vanessa, she's currently 34 years old, and then my daughter Desiree, she's now 27, and then my youngest daughter, Katrina, is 22, and my son is 19. So I think they were like 5 years apart.
So you're working, making I would imagine, a relatively meager existence, having a wife to care for,
Yeah.
4 children
Four children along the way.
along the way, and you're now in your late 20s?
With my first daughter, I was in.
When you decided to go to college,
Oh, yeah.
you were in your late 20s.
I was in my late 20s, and that was my. I had my 2 daughters, Vanessa and Desiree, when I started back in education.
So you were carrying quite a load here.
Yeah.
You had to work at night to go to college?
I had to work, actually, here at the tribe. I was on the elected council during some of that time. But yeah, the most time that I had for studying was between 12 and 4 o'clock in the morning when it was quiet. So I got it done.
People don't understand the kind of a load that people have carried before them.
Yeah.
Married with children, 1994, you got an associate's degree in what college was that?
That was from Victor Valley Community College in Victorville.
And then what happened between 1994 and 2002? Did you keep going to school?
So I went to, I kept one class going. I transferred to San Bernardino Valley College and did some of my undergraduates there. And so I was doing my undergraduates there to transfer to Cal State San Bernardino. I originally started off with a full load, then got elected within the tribal council, and so I limited my full load now to a couple classes, but I kept moving towards the goal.
Which was a bachelor's degree.
Which was a bachelor's degree.
In 2002.
Yeah.
So you're working with the tribe.
Yeah.
Were you still cleaning floors, or did you?
No, we kind of, the last strip in waxing the floors was a little bit prior to that. Once I got elected, we started looking at the Gaming Commission, and when I got my associate's degree, that I ran for different positions here in the tribe. Elected business committee member. Prior to that, I was the chairman of the Gaming Commission, and then ultimately treasurer, and then to the chairmanship, leading the people of Santos Manuel.
Now, during that time, were other members of your tribe that were coming up now through the ranks, were they getting the same kind of college educations that you were getting?
So there was a big push for members to go back to college. One of the big reasons that I ended up re-engaging in education is because I would talk about to the kids, all those that would listen through our tribal culture awareness program, to get your education and to be able to move forward. So I figured leading by example. So I went back to community college, started off with a lot of those remedial classes, worked my way up and attained it, and then got hooked on education and kept going.
Well, you did, because in 2009, you got an MBA.
That's right.
Master of Business Administration from the University of Redlands.
That was working. I was tribal chairman during that time,
Yes,
raising my family, and I mean, the solitude at 2 o'clock in the morning is pretty quiet to try to get everything done. So,
do you consider yourself a major influence on the educational opportunities of your tribal members?
well, I think anytime someone moves forward and does these things, you never know who's watching, who's looking. As far as saying that we paved the way for those things, I'm not so sure. I know that I've done my part to make sure that when I come out and talk about education, I could talk about life learning experiences along the way. I do know that there's another individual here, one of my cousins, that went also to the University of Redlands and attained her bachelor's degree.
Really?
So yeah, and so you never know. Here within our culture, it's not so much of I did it, now everybody look, right? It's more of I'm going to lead by example, not just talk about it, but putting action to it. And so if I sat here and just talked about how education could unlock different opportunities and not pursue it myself, you have to lead by example. And you never know who's watching or the impact you're going to have on someone's life.
How do you think you've done?
Well, we're still working. I think, being able to be the former chairperson, the leader of the people of Santos Manuel through some trying times and done a lot of good things. Ultimately, first elected in the county from our tribe. Now running for the assembly to become the first California Indian ever in the state of California.
Now, I have all that here, James. I mean,
but it's just by example. It's just by you know, our people have been through so many things, from persecution to, you know, trying to be annihilated out of the state of California to not even being recognized, and still tribal rights. It's not just about gaming, it's about the Indian people in the state of California, where the majority of them still live in drastic needs of infrastructure.
I'm familiar with the poverty of a Native American tribe in Coachella.
Oh, good, yeah,
Coachella
they're
Valley.
good friends of mine. The songs that I sing, Kauai bird songs, were taught to me by Mr. Robert Levi, who's from Torres Martinez, Desert Kauai. So all those things coupled together really shows that Indian country still has a long way to go. And if we sit back and just let time go by and say someone needs to get out there and do it, without somebody saying, well, we need to make a change, or at least stand up and try to, then we're starting to see how Indian country could evolve away from just the topic of gaming, but to the topic of the quality of all California Indian people.
Now, you, in addition to holding tribal offices, getting your MBA, becoming chairman of your tribe, you started a couple of businesses. You got into the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Why would anybody as smart
Yeah.
as you with an MBA get into a business that is not known for its stability?
That's right. So I graduated with a business degree from Cal State San Bernardino in 2002, and would always talk about how you have to set yourself up for, in case the day comes when gaming's not here, how are you going to survive? You need businesses to fall back on. So that idea that I had was buying these restaurants that were old-time restaurants, but the land included. So in case something ever happened, my kids and others, we could fall back and onto the restaurant. And it sounded like a great idea. However, that was in 2002, and we're in 2018, and I've been trying to keep those businesses afloat for some time now. But seeing the business regulations that come our way,
Right.
my oldest daughter, is now overseeing Pepitos. And
One of your restaurants.
One of the restaurants. And so immediately she created a new building, and it's still under construction, where it actually will have a drive-through going through it. So some of that hard work and understanding, when people, you know, you hire people and they depend on you for their livelihood, you know, that I think goes a long way in ingraining that into somebody's character so that they could understand that for the rest of their lives.
Now, are all four of your children involved in your private businesses?
So my oldest daughter is. My next daughter has a family, and she's caring for those kids,
Okay.
and making sure that happens. My next daughter is currently a senior at Biola University, and my son is a freshman at Biola University. So
They took after you.
yeah, well,
That's that's a lot to be proud of, considering where you came from.
yeah,
A lot to be
every
proud
day.
of. Now, so you got into the restaurant business. Now you're chairman of the tribe. You held that position until your chairmanship until
2012.
12. Okay. I wanted to first, before we got into basically your public service, or what one might call a political career of some sorts, I really don't want to put you in the same category as a politician, because
Public
I've met a
servant.
lot of politicians. And you are only the second Native American I have ever met that took on public service outside the tribe. The first one I met was Viola Ortner of the Agua Calientes. She became a member of the Palm Springs City Council. But growing up, I noticed that the Native Americans in Agua Caliente, they didn't really reach out to the community as you have, and as members of your tribe have started to do. So it was you and Viola Ortner that were my only gauge of community involvement beyond the tribe. Your current tribal chairman, I understand, is your first cousin. Her first name is Lynn
Valbuena.
Valbuena. Is what you set as a standard for education continued now by your other tribal leaders? Are they continuing to emphasize this need for a higher education, or at least for a trade of some sort?
Yeah, I believe it really is the mechanism now that's ingrained in the tribe of all elected leaders and members to continue to push education. One of the big things that we did as a tribe was make it a criteria that before you receive full financial monetary gain, you would have to have at least your high school diploma.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about that, because there are other tribes I'm not going to single them out,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the greatest disappointments of my dear friend,
Yeah.
Richard, who is no longer with us, was that they didn't require that tribal members at the time work in some
Yeah.
fashion or get an education of some kind in order to receive some of the benefits of the gaming.
Yeah.
But you have instilled that.
We have, but it evolved into it.
It did.
So in the beginning, when we were when the bingo first happened, the monetary financial gain wasn't what it is, and so along the way you had to evolve. Even the homes, we went from mobile home trailers to being able to construct homes, and so we had to do a lot of building codes and those adapt to some of the things that jurisdictions currently have, and knowing that because we've sat on these outside of the reservation. So there's been a lot of catch up, and I think Indian country, those that have evolved to that, we give them a lot of credit because they've streamlined a lot of things from 85 to where we are now, which other jurisdictions had since 1901 or 1902 or however many years to kind of fine tune that, and tribes have risen to the challenge.
I have yet to see, I think maybe the Seminoles have done very well by way of education in Florida. I just have not been able to find another tribe of your magnitude of what you have accomplished. You look around where we are now in this beautiful, gorgeous, we're at the base of the San Bernardino Mountains, and it is your tribal heritage. It's magnificent. The view up here is phenomenal. But the education, I keep coming back to education because requiring tribal members to at least get an education, do you still do you require them to work outside or work within the tribe to get their piece of the action of the tribal largeness?
So a lot of that comes through the activeness within the General Council, where it meets once a month, and members over the age of 21 are voting members, and they're at these meetings making the big decisions on the direction of the tribal government.
Now, what about how many members do you have?
So when I was tribal chairman, the total membership was probably about 246 members.
Okay.
And out of that, over the age of 21 was close to maybe 100 members. So that means that the younger members did outweigh those over the age of 21.
Is that still the case today?
I'm not the tribal chairman at this point, and I couldn't give you the numbers, factual numbers on that at this point, only the numbers that while I was chairman.
Right. So,
but there still is a lot of kids running around.
There are, and yet the education still prevails. This is the one thing that you saw to, or that your tribal council saw to, that you do not get a piece of our casino money unless you have at least a high school education.
Well, monetary gain goes a long way, and I have seen, and other chairmen have bought into the educational component also. And so we have seen an uptick in those going straight into four-year universities now, right out of high school. So you see that it does work, but it takes a generation to allow it to show the approach to decisions that are made now. It takes almost like a generation to see that full effect moving forward.
This is a list of Native American, what they call politicians in America. And it goes back to the 1800s. And there's, for the population of Native Americans in America today, I believe there's approximately, if I'm not correct, it's about 5 million. I've looked that up. I could be wrong. I'm not a numbers person. I graduated from Palm Springs High School. I'm challenged. But in this entire list of Native Americans who have held public office in public service outside of their tribe, California doesn't have any.
No.
They don't have any. We're going to get to this in a minute. But so I went from seeing this list, no California, none, to, let's see if we can go through this now. You decided in 2003 to run for an office. The San Bernardino City Unified School District. I will sit here and qualify that you may have lost that election, but it was the last one you ever lost,
That's
and will
right.
probably be the last one you ever lose. Why? Why did you jump into public service, political, outside of your tribe?
So during that time, we were still fighting for the right for gaming, along with different tribal chairpersons and other reservations. We would always go and lobby members and about our plight, right? What our message was. But it always struck me kind of in an area that we would have to lobby somebody about issues that were important to us, and that we could always sit in those seats.
But they didn't have a clue what you were talking
they
about.
Didn't. So we would pay people to talk about the issues that are important to us. So I said, well, we should be running for office. And I kept saying it. I even tried to encourage other members to do it, and nobody would. And so finally I said, I'm going to do it. And they, well, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I
Yeah,
went
go
out
on,
there
James.
and didn't know, we jumped right into it knocking on doors and doing those things, and I lost the election.
Yeah, but guess what?
That's right.
3 years later, 2 years later, again, my math skills aren't what they should be, in 2005, you won.
I won.
You are a trustee of the San Bernardino Community College.
That's right.
And you served there from 2005 to 2012.
To 2012.
What was that like?
So it was great because right then, when you lose that election, you're being the first one out there.
How did it feel? I mean,
To lose that election was a feeling, because then it was more or less you had to make a decision, whether to engage again or just I tried.
Yeah.
But going back to Mr. Robert Levi, and we were always talking about things, and I told him, I said, what do we do? And he just basically said, well, someone has to continue to break the ice. So then I went for the appointment. There was an appointment process for the San Bernardino Community College district, and I made it through all the different categories and the different people, and it came down to myself and Mr. Bob Piercy, and Bob Piercy got it, and I came in second. I immediately started campaigning for this election and won in 2005, and then successfully got reelected.
How was that experience being now a trustee of a college?
Yeah.
Was it a challenge for you?
It's a lot of learning experience, getting engaged and finding that niche that you're going to be able to, champion the issues. And with the students, I've always was engaged with them. So any issues that came up, we stood up for the students within the community college district and pushed online courses to those that were staying up at midnight, right, trying to get their degrees. Right. They should have an opportunity to get there. And it was a great feeling. I remember talking with my parents and others, that we made it. We were the first one out to gain an elected office outside of the reservation. And it started to open up doors for speaking and for younger members then to run for class presidents of their school. It started to have a little following of itself. But it's a lot of hard work, and you got to be able to be engaged with the community and talk on those issues. I remember leaving here with tribal business as an elected leader and having to be at the board meeting that same evening. So I was... You
were in two worlds.
Two different worlds. And so I was here dealing with this and had to basically shut that down and go and deal with this. So it was, you had to be able to I guess, the mindset to be able to go back and forth. And education, I can't say enough for the education and the quality of education that allowed me to fully understand those areas that when you had to switch from one to another, and it's still going on today.